And now I'd like to open the meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Craig.
Just it said in the readings, which were wonderful, God is here to save. And he certainly has saved me over the years. It seems like no matter what comes upon us, God and Christian science and practitioners and congregation in this church are here to save. I was very sick, just torn up and wasn't functioning in my body very well. And I was in the hospital, but that didn't stop a Christian Science practitioner from helping me in this church. I was a novice to very young in Christian Science. But I just wanted to get out of there. But I was in pretty bad shape. And I think the loudest voice I've ever heard from God came to me, and it said, "Work for me." Clearly, I didn't say it. And I quickly affirmed, "Sir, sure." I'm glad to. And then I have. And my health, with practitioners' help, just got better quickly. And I've had ups and downs, but God always, and church and practitioners picked me up. I lost jobs, and people in the church that had businesses gave me employment until I could get a job in my own profession. There was always some help, until you could stand stronger to what God made. It's a beautiful to see his Christianity and his his love in action. All the while, the church as a whole has been working to do the greater works, to heal the world, to stand up for nations and peoples and grief and bring joy. And it still goes on, and I thank God for that even if one of us slips, the work keeps going on, and the other one gets back up with the help of others, and the work keeps going on. God bless this world by this church and Mary Baker Reddy and our practitioners and family. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
I am very grateful tonight for a rebuke and a correction I received last week. In miscellaneous writings, Mrs. Eddy wrote, "Mental malpractice is a bland denial of truth and is the antipode of Christian Science." In a roundtable last year, we went over this, but not until last Wednesday did I find out exactly what a bland denial is. There were reports of a tornado warning, and a practitioner was asked to work on the weather ahead of the testimony meeting. The weather quickly became calm, and the meeting went smoothly. Afterward, we were talking about it in the foyer, and I said I never put much stock in those kind of reports because they never seemed to come to anything. However, a fellow church member corrected me, and afterwards I spoke to my practitioner about it. She said my comment was a bland denial that would undermine the effectiveness of prayer and God's power. I now understand that no matter how these claims come to me, I cannot ever be flippant or dismissive about them. It is coming to be uncovered and destroyed, so I must see that and work to put Christian Science into practice correctly. Otherwise, I am malpracticing or wrongly practicing Christian Science. The last thing I want to do is turn anyone off to the truth or to be a weak link in the mission of this church. So I am very grateful that members and practitioners are so quick to get my thought aligned with God. The practitioner also said I needed to guard my thought. This suggestion came to me and I let it right out of my mouth without thinking. It was very unwise. I am so thankful that this wasn't allowed to slide, that the rebuke and correction were quick, and that it was so clearly impersonal and loving. This allowed me to take the lesson to heart and truly learn from it. What a blessing it is to be here in this church, learning what Christian Science is and what love and truth truly are. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the beautiful music and the beautiful readings and the testimonies already. I am very grateful for the work of a Plainfield practitioner, my Plainfield practitioner, who is challenging my limited beliefs about God and man. My views clearly were not getting the desired results of feeling closer to God, and if anything, were having the opposite effect. Dismantling this thinking that makes you feel separated from God has been an enormous tool. I am learning to go beyond the surface of negative thinking to see where it is leading me, then use what I am learning here from the Bible classes, the clear teachings on Mary Baker Eddy's writings, which show us, quote, God is understandable, knowable, and applicable to every human need, unquote. That was Mary Baker Eddy. I am grateful also for last Sunday's roundtable that addressed some beliefs that make us feel separated from God and how to challenge them. Thank you, Plainfield Church, for all you do. Good evening.
Thank you. Luann from New York, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to express my gratitude to God for Christian Science, because without this promised comforter, I would still be experiencing a life deep within the walls of darkness. It was the only life I knew, and it was filled with pain and suffering. There was no way to cope with it or understand it. To me, it seemed that death was the only way out. So I was led to a better understanding through Christian Science. Through the work of my practitioner and the grace of God, that story has ended, and I can write a new book filled with testimonies of healing and gratitude for renewed life. After calling my practitioner for help, I was introduced to the only God there is, and through love expressed, I learned to truly forgive. By its power, I am gaining back the years the locusts have eaten. The relationships I had with my brothers and sisters were solely based on survival. Even though we played together and ate meals together, we never took the time to cherish and support the individuality and talents that each one was given. We were too busy waiting for the siren to sound that called us like mindless robots to report for battle. Through Christian Science, God has opened the way for us all to come together again, forming healthy relationships with each other, supporting each other, and relearning what it means to be brothers and sisters. The other day I asked my brother to help me with a home repair, and as we worked together, he expressed his interest in drawing and painting and asked if I would teach him. My eyes filled with tears of joy because I knew this was the power of God working to perfect every aspect of my life. I'm grateful to my practitioner for all the work she has done to clear the way for truth to have its perfect work. Every day I'm gaining a greater understanding of what it means to be the child of God. Thank you.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Tonight I wish to express gratitude to Plainfield Church for several things. On Wednesdays, the music is like a prayer, uplifting our spirits. The readings each week, including tonight, inspire, heal, and teach all who listen. The testimonies bring proof of healing that stay with us long after they are given. Also, I would like to mention the lesson sermon. Not until studying the lessons from Plainfield have I felt such joy in reading them over and over, each day gaining insights and connections. Sometimes I marvel because a whole new idea opens in my thought. I believe this may be part of what spiritual understanding is. What a blessing. Thank you, Plainfield.
Thank you. Lil.
I'm just so grateful that Christian Science saves lives. I'm grateful for a practitioner help that is healing my thought of selfishness so I can be of use to God. Practitioner has really been hitting the error in my thought, such as I can't, I don't understand, and all the negative limiting thoughts, so I can recognize them and smash them, as error is not from God. This is saving my life. I've begun to feel a sense of joy return and seeing myself correctly. It's up to me to stay alert. No one can do it for me. What a wonderful journey. I thank practitioner for help and God for this healing truth. And thank you for those wonderful readings.
Thank you. This is Bruce. Boy, what a wonderful lesson we have to study this week. Do not neglect the gift that was within you. It makes me ask, do I recognize that there are gifts within me? As God's child, yes. But it reminded me of a wonderful lesson that I learned some time ago. There was a time when, through the help of a practitioner in this church, I got a job. And it was close by, and I was just very grateful for that job at first. But as is typical, I guess, I went to the job and challenges came up. And I guess the point in time came when things were not quite as harmonious as I would have liked them. Didn't know what to do. I called up a practitioner and I says, I think I need to get out of here. The practitioner paused for about 1/2 of a second and then told me something that I needed to know. And I needed to hear it very definitely. And she said, "You better be grateful you have a job." And it was just that forceful and just that direct. And it hit me right between the eyes. But it was exactly what I needed to hear. And it calmed me down. And not only that, it taught me something. Whatever happens with this job, I'm going to be grateful every moment. Learn whatever lesson I need to learn. Develop and not neglect any gifts that really are within me if I would be wise enough to turn to God to find out what they are. And in time, that job came to an end, but the lesson that I learned there did not. Sometime after that, I got another job in the same field. And sure enough, times came up when things were challenging. It looked like I was on the receiving end, a lot of criticism and whatever. But I remembered that lesson. I better be grateful that I have this job and not to neglect the gift that is within. And I went on with that idea, gratitude and service. And that job lasted for many years until I voluntarily left it later. And that was quite a number of years ago. And even to this day, I'm still on very good terms with the people in that office and still go back and help them now and then. Thank you, Father, for the wonderful opportunity. And thank you, Father, for the wonderful gifts that you do bestow on each and every one of your children, and your clear instruction to not to neglect that gift. So going forward from here, I'm just humbly thanking God and asking Him to show me the way that I do not neglect His gifts and that they bear fruit according to His good will. Thank you. Day or Florence, go ahead.
This is Day. Thank you. I'm grateful to have learned in this church that there is no such thing as a helpless person or a hopeless situation. No matter how bad any problem seems or how long it's been carrying on, I've learned that it can be healed, and it's my responsibility to keep in my thinking that nothing is impossible to God and that there is no power apart from Him. I've had many healings through this new understanding, And I'm grateful for the opportunity to keep working through daily prayer and watching, to expect continuous healing for others and for the world. I thank God and I thank everyone here.
Thank you. Gary.
I'm so grateful that no matter what our circumstance, no matter what our need, no matter what our problem, there is a God that we can turn to and always get an answer of peace when we turn to Him honestly and humbly. I've had so many wonderful healings of all kinds of problems through Christian Science prayer, and I'm so grateful for the lessons that I keep learning about God in this church. A while ago, I remember on a very cold day, I was outside doing some work, a little more work than I usually do, and I started to feel not very good after doing quite a bit of work. And my first thought was, bummer. But then I caught myself, and I went inside and warmed up, and I thought, no, I'm not going to accept this. A good God would not bring this to me. And I was doing work that needed to be done. And some thoughts came to me that I have learned in this church, one of which is that we are all subject to God's laws, which are spiritual laws and which are all good. And those are the only laws that govern everything in the universe, including us. And any of these so-called material or medical or whatever other laws we think are laws are not laws. And I am not subject to them, and neither is anybody else. Well, as I worked with that and got firmer and firmer in my demand that I be subject only to God's laws, I started to feel pretty good pretty quickly. And the symptoms, which were quite uncomfortable, left, and I was free from that point on and had a wonderful, productive rest of the day. I'm so grateful to Mary Baker Eddy for discovering the science of Christianity, the laws of the universe, writing them down, teaching them, demonstrating them for all mankind. These are the laws that Jesus gave to his disciples, gave to anybody who was willing to listen. I'm so grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you. Fairley from Maryland, go ahead.
Before I came to Plainfield, I was in a very dark situation in my life, and Plainfield changed my life, and I've always been extremely grateful for that. I can't say enough about that. And tonight I would like to express particular gratitude for one of the many things Plainfield offers that help me to understand Christianity and Christian Science, and that is the Bible study that we have on Saturday mornings. And Plainfield offers us such a very special opportunity to the members to have the responsibility of being the moderators, making up the questions on which having a Bible study depends. I have learned so much in the Old Testament and the New Testament, truths that have helped me so much. in the few years that I've been here. It is a great blessing, and I want to thank you so much. And thank you for the readings, which were also very helpful.
Thank you. Dale from Virginia, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to thank you so much for the readings tonight and beautiful music and all the testimonies. I'm very grateful for all of the Bible truths that we are given through our weekly lessons, the words and examples that give courage and show God's love and care for his children. And we're always encouraged to let Christ go before us and to be a blessing wherever we go. I actually got a lot, that kind of idea came from the reading the new forum highlights this morning, first thing. A wonderful encouragement to be strong in God. Today, later in the morning, I had a dental appointment, which is not my favorite thing to do. So as I drove there, I repeated to myself the daily prayer that Mrs. Eddy gave us in the church manual. When I got to the words, quote, "Rule out of me all sin," unquote, I thought, okay, what is sin? Sin is believing in any power or presence apart from God. I reasoned that if I really knew that there was no reality in fear, discord, or nervousness, because they had no place in God or God's creation, then that was getting rid of sin in me, in my thought. How wonderful. I really felt the love and joy that only God can give. I went on to have a very pleasant and successful dental appointment with no problems at all. I am so grateful for the uplift of the teaching in this church and the fact that it is so practical in our daily lives, things we can share with others as well and be a blessing. I'm very grateful to be part of this church and its mission. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Suzanne from Vermont, go ahead.
Good evening. A few days ago, I was walking the dog as I do every day, and we've had some funny weather here with snow and ice and thawing and mud, and so I was walking the dog up the hill and singing the 91st Psalm because I just love the tune that Faith and Peter have sung, and that's on our website. And working with the practitioner early on, she had instructed me to memorize the 91st Psalm, as it can heal everything, and so I took that to heart, and I love singing it. Anyway, coming back down the hill, I suddenly slipped and I hit a patch of ice and just came down on my back and arm and immediately declared God good, as I've been taught in this church. Whenever you stub your toe or seem to fall or something, just to go straight to God good and keep focused on God and that there is only good. And I got up and it was, seemed fine, and immediately thought how ridiculous that I could possibly fall out of God's love and protection while singing the 91st Psalm. I truly feel that I was protected, and there was no aftermath. I felt pretty hard, but I do feel that the simple instruction that we have here and the focus to keep our thoughts focused on God is such a help and Christian Science doesn't have to be complicated. And I'm very grateful for the practical instruction over the years that I've had through this church to help us along the way every day, and for just all the practitioner help and all the resources we have through the website and teleconference. And thank you for this beautiful service tonight, this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the readings and the hymns and all the testimonies. Tonight I'd like to also say that Christian Science has saved my life. Before Christian Science, I had so much trouble, it seemed, everything going wrong, so depressed, so unhappy. But then turning to Christian Science, after the first healings, the calm that came, it seemed like everything was going wrong. It seemed I had problem with the false sense of lack. I had problems with relationships. I had problems with my job. So it made me think sometimes, well, should I really go on with this? But then right behind those silly thoughts came, what would I go back to? It all seemed like everything was going wrong. But then what did I have to go back to? Until I learned that God's love, it is God's love I needed to seek, I needed to feel. And when I started to do that, to know that this love is my salvation, this love is ever present right here now. It is my staff to lean on, it is my shield to protect me, that I can change my thinking from those sinful thoughts of fear and worry and expecting doom and all that. And I just turned to God for everything, no matter what was going on. After coming to this church and listening to the tapes and being instructed practically as to how to go about my day, my thought on God alone, often turning to Him, asking questions, I started to really think correctly, to stop those sinful thoughts and therefore have peace. And truly, salvation and joy is from this love. I can't say enough about it. When things came up, I would just stop for a moment and turn to God, just like Daniel did with 7 hungry lions, and stories like Goliath and David. All those really began to make sense in my life, and it has really changed my life. I cannot say enough. I can't thank God enough. All I know is that no matter what is going on, the love of God is present right where everyone is, and we can turn to it and have the comfort that the Comforter that was promised to us has come and will comfort us if we turn to it. Thank you for this service again.
Thank you. Mary.
I'll read a few things from our church bulletin board that's on our website. The first from Costa Rica. I just listened to the Wednesday night meeting on YouTube and enjoyed the readings and the testimonies, and of course singing along with the hymns. I realized that because God is all, in reality I cannot experience anything else. Even as mortal mind constantly tries to suck us back in, God is my experience, not personal sense, and the world's perceived reality. And then Pennsylvania. I wish to thank everyone who is involved with the Wednesday evening services. Right in the middle of our bustling and often challenging week comes the Wednesday service that blesses with music, readings, and testimonies of gratitude. Thank you. And then Maryland, I want to express my special gratitude for the roundtable this past Sunday, February 21st, a riveting learning session on mind. We were told to begin our day by claiming that God is my mind and repeat this all during the day as we go about our occupations. All our moments are His. One needs to ask if one is being influenced by the divine mind or the human mind. Turn to the one mind to know what to do in every situation, asking God for wisdom. In dealing with others, know that there is only the one mind. When we make a telephone call to do some business, know that we are connected to the right mind. And then another from Maryland. I would like to thank Florence Roberts for putting together all the past forum posts for us to refer to. I enjoy going to this site from time to time. Revisiting the past comments from our past lessons give me an uplift, sometimes a chuckle, always something to think over during the day. They are all healing gems. Compiling all of these past forum entries, I can imagine, is no easy task. Thank you for your love and dedication. I found the forum highlights very useful. In the lesson this week is a small statement that has always meant a great deal to me in Timothy, and that is, keep that which is committed to thy trust. It's simple, but very profound and extremely important. We all have things that have been committed to our trust. Each one of us is individual, and what has been committed to my trust is different from everyone else's. But that idea to keep it, to recognize what it is and to keep it, to mind it, to make sure that it is going well and smoothly. Very often we can get so distracted with the temptations of the world, we might forget what has been committed to our trust. I know my mother used to say it, that we all have our own row to hoe, and that is so true. I remember first coming to this church, the practitioner mentioned this verse to me and said how important it is. I was reading recently a story about Mrs. Eddy, about a worker in her home, and she said even though Mrs. Eddy attended to so many things involved in the church, so many things for the healing of the nations, healing of mankind, she knew that charity began at home, and she was very mindful of that and was so loving and good to every student that she had, to every member in her household. She always made sure all their needs were met. She did not overlook those things. She kept all that was committed to her trust, the small things as well as the great. And of course, in the Bible, we're instructed when you take care of the smaller things, you will be made master of the larger ones. And so it is. Keep that which is committed to thy trust. Such a wonderful statement, and one that we all should think about. I'm so grateful tonight for the wonderful meeting, for the beautiful readings, testimonies, music. It's so good to be here with you all.
Thank you.